Vruz is the newly announced promo card for the Splinterlands blockchain-based trading card game, and everything about this card, from the stats, the abilities, and even the way that the card is being released to the public, is an absolute win for the Splinterlands community. We're talking all about it in today's video. Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is the Part-Time Economist, and in today's video we are talking about Vruz, which is the hot new promo card coming to Splinterlands. And even though the card itself is new, the character is not. If you stake, unstake, claim your SPS rewards, this little character is the guy that has the SPS in his backpack, and you see him running kind of like a little loading screen. So right off the bat, I am a huge fan of stuff like this, where creators, developers will take one small little piece of the game and give it a full role. In a sense, I feel like I already know Vruz, even though it has never been released as a trading card. With that being said, in today's video, I want to talk about a couple things. Number one, the stats of Vruz the card. Number two, compare Vruz to some similar monsters that kind of fulfill a similar role so we can determine which is better. And then thirdly, I want to go over how the actual details of the sale are such a great thing for the Splinterlands community. But before we get into the video, you know I've got to give my standard disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Please do not make any kind of investing decisions based off what I say in today's video. And then lastly, if you could like the video, comment, or share with a friend, it definitely helps the channel out. With that being said, let's jump right into the most interesting part, which is the stats of Vruz. Now, if we're looking here, Vruz has some pretty impressive stats. It is a common level dragon splinter monster that can be played for only 2 mana. Now, right off the bat, this has a lot of advantages. Number one, it is a common level monster. So it can be played in Rise of the Common rule sets. It can be played in Lost Legendary rule sets, right? A lot of other cards that come out have great stats, but because they're legendary cards or rare or something like that, there are some rule sets that will knock them out of consideration. So this is a common level monster. Also, because it is Dragon Splinter, it can play alongside any other Splinter. So you can have Dragon plus Water, Dragon plus Fire, so you can use Vruz alongside other teams to create a synergy, which is huge. But what does Vruz itself actually do? Well, for a 1 BCX level card, it has 1 melee damage output, you get 4 speed, you get 1 health, and you get sneak right from level 1. Now, one thing you know about Splinterlands cards is that they can be combined, they can level up, and a card that isn't really so good at level 1 could be awesome at level 10, right? We could sit here for hours comparing each different level of Vruz. Me personally, I play in the bronze to silver range, so that's where my area of expertise is, so that's where we're going to focus most of our analysis. If you play champ, if you play diamond, again, you're going to have a different set of comparison standards there, which I'll try to briefly talk about, but not get too much into it. So, level 1, we've got sneak, which is awesome, because for 2 mana, a common level monster, this isn't something that we see a lot, especially if we're talking about a low mana rule set, a little league rule set. What this sneak ability does is it will allow Vruz to attack the back line of your opponent's lineup. So again, especially in these lower mana matches, most people are expecting a frontal assault, right? There's not a lot of sneak, snipe, opportunity monsters for this low of mana. So it gives you a great ace up your sleeve, so to speak. Now, as Vruz levels up, you get the Martyr ability, which is huge because when this card gets knocked out of the battlefield, it gives a buff to the adjacent monsters. So in that sense, yeah, you don't want Vruz to get knocked out of the fight, but if it does, it gives a huge boost to the colleagues that are fighting to the left and the right of it. So that's a huge ability. Again, I don't really play at that level too much, so I can't speak too much to it, but I do think it is a powerful ability to have. Now let's talk about some of the downsides. Vruz at the lowest level has 1 health. That means if anything even sneezes on this card, it is done for. If you're playing in an Earthquake rule set, there's no armor, it's going to be done after the first turn. If you're playing a poison rule set, it has 1 health. It is done after the first turn. If you're playing a blast rule set, or even if it's not a blast rule set and your opponent has a monster with blast, that attack lands near Vruz. Vruz is going to be, again, completely done for. So I see this as a niche card that's going to do amazing in specific rule sets, but is not at all going to be a Unicorn Mustang, a Living Lava, a Shield Bearer, something that you play in 80 to 90% of your matches for a given Splinter. Now, Vruz is pretty awesome, but let's talk about how it stacks up to its competitors, because for every Splinterland match, you only have a small amount of mana, and if you spend 2 mana playing Vruz, that's 2 mana that you can't use elsewhere. Likewise, if you only have a certain amount of funds to buy or rent cards, renting or purchasing Vruz means that you can't rent or purchase other similar cards that could fulfill a similar role. So in my opinion, and again, this is just my opinion, I think one of the most similar monsters to Vruz is going to be Undead Badger. Now, we are only comparing commons to commons, right? I'm not going to compare Vruz to a legendary 2-mana monster, right? That's simply not a fair comparison. We're going to do common level monsters, and I think Undead Badger is probably the most similar. They both cost 2 mana, they both have 1 damage output, they both have 1 heart, they both have sneak at the lowest level, but what you'll notice is that Undead Badger is a monster that is with the Death Splinter, and it only has 3 speed. So, number 1, it's a little bit slower and it's Death Splinter, which means a couple things. Number 1, it can only be played alongside other Death Splinter or neutral monsters. So you don't have the same degree of creating synergies as you do with Vruz, where it can play alongside any other Splinter. Also, because it's slower, Vruz gets the advantage there. Now, in a sense, being a Death Splinter monster can be a little bit of an advantage as well. We know that Dragon Splinter monsters typically have higher priced summoners, right? So, yes, Vruz only costs 2 mana, but if we factor in that we have to play a Dragon Summoner, which is typically a 4 mana summoner, right? If we're talking about like Kretch versus something that's a 3 mana for something on the Death Splinter, then you kind of have a little bit extra mana to work with if you're going with the Death Splinter. So kind of a trade-off there, but the huge difference, notice how poorly Undead Badger levels up. Even if we get all the way to level 10, we don't get any new abilities. We don't get any armor. We go up to 4 hearts, we get 3 melee output, we get 6 speed. So again, Vruz is really looking a lot better here, especially as you level up and get into the higher tiers. It gets that Martyr ability, it gets True Strike, it just gets much more powerful. So Undead Badger versus Vruz at the lower level, kind of similar, but if you're leveling it up, I think Vruz is the clear winner on that one. Another possibly similar monster, and again, this is a rare level monster, is Naga Assassin. So for 2 mana there, we get 1 archery damage, we get 5 speed, and we get 2 hearts. So even going and comparing Vruz as a common level monster to a rare level card, I think Vruz still stacks up pretty favorably. Number 1, it has melee, so it can attack from any position on the battlefield, whereas Naga Assassin can only attack from not the first position. It is 1 speed slower, and it does have 1 less health, but again, we're comparing a monster that is common to a monster that's rare, and even with that in mind, I think I would still give the edge to Vruz simply because it can attack from anywhere, and it has sneak ability, which is something that you're not getting with Naga Assassin. So I kind of see Vruz as a in-between point between Undead Badger with the melee and Naga Assassin with that higher speed. So that's kind of my thoughts on where Vruz lies compared to other monsters, but now I want to talk about why the sale itself is such a huge deal. As you can see in this press release, it says the promo card sale for Vruz is scheduled to begin after the maintenance window. That's important, but the main thing for me is that they're going to take a snapshot of people that have staked SPS. SPS, of course, being the governance token for Splinterlands. For every 1,000 staked SPS you have, you will be eligible to purchase one of these cards for the cost of 1 voucher. So, right off the bat, they're giving players that have invested into the game the ability to purchase this card before anyone else. So this isn't a pre-sale. This isn't something where you can just go load up on DEC. you've actually got to have the SPS staked, and you have to have a voucher as well. So definitely a reward to people that have been contributing, putting into the ecosystem. And the benefits go far beyond that. I've heard some people saying, well, they should just sell Vruz for vouchers only, right? This is why I think making it to where you have to stake SPS is such a huge deal, because we know when you stake SPS, it takes a long time for that to unlock and unstake. So it's not something where you can just go buy a bunch of vouchers, purchase this card, flip it, make a profit, and then leave the ecosystem. With it relying on the staked SPS, even if you go out right before the snapshot and buy a ton of SPS, you're going to drive the price up, but you're not going to be able to sell all of that SPS for a while as it goes through the unlocking procedure. So even for the whales, even for people that just want to come in and buy a lot of cards, the way that the team is doing this, in my opinion, kind of preserves the value of SPS long after the initial sale. So overall, my thoughts on Vruz, I think it's awesome. I think it's a great card, not just with regards to the stats, but the way that they're doing the sale as well, the way that this is going to build up the community for more than just a quick day or two price pump, and then we get nothing. So I want to hear what you all think about Vruz. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What kind of matches do you think it's going to do the best in? So as always, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.